Listen to me. Things happen here. Things we can't control. This place wants us to blame ourselves. It wants us to be scared. You have to remember that we're all doing our best, even when bad things happen, especially when bad things happen. Because how we face those things, that's what matters. Not the decisions we make or whose fault it was, but how we take care of each other and how we always do our best no matter what. And your mom and your sister, they need that from you now, more than ever. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, Dad.
The second episode of Season 4 just dropped, and it's starting to look like we're going to be getting a lot more answers this season than expected. And by the end of this video, we'll be breaking down the Lake of Tears, why it's important to the story, and who exactly could be involved in finding it, and why finding it might not be the best choice. We get to see as the town wakes up to a bloody bag hanging from the tree, and it's moments like these that make me regret watching the trailer, as the trailer definitely spoiled this scene. That being said, I still enjoyed how the tension was rising and the horror of realization appearing on everyone's faces. Despite the show seeming small budget at times, the acting is usually top notch. And while I could understand this moment with Tabitha sending her kids back to the barn, as sending them back inside would not help as much, I do find it interesting that somehow whatever did kill Jim knew exactly where to set him up. And to set him up, ironically enough, in the same position that symbolizes the Hanged Man tarot card. A tarot card that actually directly ties to Jim in many different ways, as well as can serve as a warning for the rest of the town, as this tarot card is considered the 12th major arcana tarot card, 12 being the same number that got him into this situation.
Bent over backwards, twisting in some version of the Fibonacci sequence. There's nothing there, believe me.
Aren't there 12 notes in a scale?
And it also tends to fit pretty well narratively, as the Hanged Man tarot card can either signify voluntary surrender or a necessary shift in perspective, or it could be about accepting responsibility for your actions or choices. This directly tying to the decisions that led to Jim's fate in general with Tabitha and Jade. Seems Tabitha is now regretting their push for answers, and while it's not logical to pin all the blame on Jade here, you guys also have to understand that Tabitha is probably projecting and truly just blames herself, especially with how her kids reacted negatively towards her. And sure, Jade isn't taking things too well either. He finally reveals to Boyd what they did in the woods, and yet nobody is talking about what he remembered. If you have some full life experience here in this paranormal town, then you should talk, or maybe even warn people about what could potentially come. And we know they actually have specific memories and not just the idea they've been here before, because Jade mentions singing lullabies to their kids. And this show is just funny because every season they complain about the characters not talking, and each season the characters talk more and more. I guarantee you there's bound to be a town hall meeting at some point throughout this season. Yet we still have moments like these where Boyd, who's desperate for answers, doesn't nail Jim to the wall and try to go over every memory him and Tabitha have of this place. We even have an up-close shot of the timeline of things they learned so far in season 3, but you can see it's unupdated with how Jade and Tabitha's memories are not on there yet. If I were Boyd, I would not be letting them leave the room until I heard every single detail, but to be fair, Boyd is dealing with a lot. Seems now we're at a pacing in the show where every single day within the series, something crazy is going to happen. And I like how all the stress is pushing Boyd towards a more villainous path. And no, I don't mean he'll become a maniacal maniac, but I just mean similar to a character like Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead, Boyd is a man trying to do good, but also being pushed to make some very dark and tough decisions in order to keep his family safe. Him trying to convince Elgin to keep things a secret is obviously the wrong thing to do. And while some may disagree, I'll explain why. See, Boyd thinks if Elgin reveals what he, Boyd, and Fatima did, the town would eventually fall apart. The only thing is, we've seen this not to be true, with Sarah having murdered somebody and still being allowed to wander the town just fine. As despite people disagreeing with it and socially ostracizing her, they understand this place manipulates the mind and they respect Boyd's leadership.
We have a town we have to worry about here, Boyd. And if you try to hide this and people find out...
They will understand, just like they did with Sarah.
as far as they can tell, he's doing everything he can in their best interest. Yet, if Boyd really wanted to do the right thing by the people, he would come clean about everything and let a council or them decide altogether. And I get it, we've seen town meetings where the town residents don't really prove themselves to be that logical of thinkers, but that doesn't change the fact that Boyd is still putting the townsfolk at risk by keeping this secret.
There is either something horrible growing inside of her, or else this place has finally broken her mind. Either way, it's only a matter of time before it happens again.
You now are letting 3 potentially still lingering threats wander around the town scot-free, 2 of which the town have no idea they could pose danger to them. By that I mean you have Sarah, who yes, people shun and are nervous around, including Acosta, who was extremely rude to her in the diner. But we also see that she's willing to do some pretty horrific things just for Boyd's sake, which means there's potentially no limit to what she would be willing to do for Boyd. Then you have the people the townsfolk don't fear, like Fatima, who despite giving birth is still obviously very upset, and there's no concrete evidence to suggest that she wouldn't kill again. Boyd is risking the safety of the people of the town in order to keep those he favors safe. And while I was hoping Acosta's narrative would be a polar opposite to Boyd's downfall, with her proving to be a competent asset for Fromville, man, as an Acosta defender, it's getting harder and harder every week. While I could see why she was rude to Sarah, considering she not only has the murderer tag hanging out over her head, but she also knows that Sarah took out Elgin's eye. And I can even see why she finally broke and tried to escape, as she really did have no proof the town was stuck in a loop. She did eventually find proof of that and obviously started panicking. Fear was controlling her, and while it was wrong to put Christy at risk, I could still forgive her actions here, given that she was falling into fear in her circumstances. What I can't forgive her for is leaving Ethan behind despite everything she does know about this town, as her only credibility was being both new to the town and potentially a good person who watched out for others like she did with Elgin. Only she full-on ignored and abandoned Ethan, so she can't really wave the badge of virtue anymore in my opinion. And while I had high hopes for Acosta's character this season, and it's a little disappointing to see her this way, who's not disappointing me so far is Sophia's actress. Julia Doyle is absolutely killing it in the role, and I knew going into this season she was potentially going to play a creepy traitor type imposter. It's her performance that really solidifies her presence within the show. Just the moment where she's praying over the pastor and her smile turns to tears were top notch. Though I do wonder about her scenes with Sarah and looking at all the items of people who die. We know monsters also like to hoard people's belongings, and that a lot of people associate this with fae or fairies, but we've also seen a shot of the ballerina, which is very reminiscent of the monster Boyd hallucinated in season 2. We eventually get to see Julie storywalk again in the hopes of saving her dad, and she reappears in the season 2 moment right before Boyd runs into a hallucination of his dead wife. And this scene plays a very key part in my theory by the end of the video. Either way, it's here we can see that she can physically get touched when she does storywalk, meaning she can potentially still die or at least take damage, despite her real body seizing back in Fromville. Her getting grabbed by the monster by the hair also explains why she does eventually cut it. And while she did survive the encounter at the beginning of the season, I do wonder if storywalking is somehow how Julie will meet her fate. Potentially she'll push too far and run into a situation she can't escape from. And while Julie's sneaking off, seeking spoilers for the story, Ethan goes off to find the radio to talk to Thomas. It's the same place he and his dad visited, had a heart-to-heart, and heard Thomas on the radio before. But this is where things get interesting. We see the reappearance of Jim, and this isn't the first time we've seen dead characters reappear, especially being so calm like Jim is now. I thoroughly thought these were an entity just messing with the townsfolk every time I saw them, as logically if people did die and wake up in the real world like Tabitha did, they'd be a bit more informative if finally finding a way to communicate with the people still in Fromville. But if the people that wake up in real life actually can find a way to tap back in, maybe this could explain the random items in the Matthews house being thrown around. With Jim being an architect, it's possible he reverse engineered and found the old house that they were actually staying in. But why would folks seem relatively unworried whenever they revisit these people? But why would folks who died seem so relatively unfazed when revisiting these characters? Well, potentially it's because they know if the residents did die, they wouldn't be in any real physical danger. And when we look at what advice they actually give these characters, it's never anything too manipulative, and while it seems off on first glance, with the context we have now about the town, a lot of their advice is actually really solid.
And here you are standing, looking at this bottle tree, puzzling over it, like it's a part of the original design.
No.
Okay, and tell me how that's any different with Elgin. I mean, this place got inside his head, convinced him he was actually protecting Fatima, and now you're out here getting ready to go medieval on him. Bit of a double standard, don't you think?
It's different.
Fatima killed Tilly, you didn't even blink. I mean, you did everything you could to protect her. You took her out to the shed, you lied to the people you claim to care about. Push comes to shove, you're no different than anyone else. You protect what's yours, you fuck anyone who gets in your way. You were supposed to be better than this.
Thinking you were supposed to be here.
You really want to beat this place? Maybe you should sober up.
It's not your fear that feeds the forest boy. It's hope.
And if Jim was actually speaking to Ethan from the real world, this could explain why during their scene he was constantly looking around as if somebody else was there with him. But then why not just be upfront about everything Jim would know? Or at least let people know that he's okay. Potentially because they need the story to go down a very specific way. If you saw my storybook theory, I believe all these characters are finding themselves trapped within this cosmic book. Similar to stories or plays we've seen in The King of Yellow, potentially there is an actual goal with all these chapters or stories or cycles or iterations, and the hopes are to eventually reach a version of the story that maybe frees the Nkui kids. I'm still unsure what the grand goal could be. Either way, if the dead were to give actual spoilers for the story, then it would change the character's perspective and decisions that they make. But I believe that despite Jim potentially looking around and being told not to say too much or reveal anything in that moment, he did choose to help and give a hint in the best way he could, which was reminding Ethan of the Lake of Tears.
It's here, and I need you to find it.
See, since the beginning of the series, we've had referenced a very specific story moment involving Ethan, the Lake of Tears, and Norman.
Norman, you're gonna be okay. The secret fairies are on their way back from the Lake of Tears. They're gonna fix you.
Now here's what I'm thinking the story will lead to. Norman will actually end up being Victor, with Norman's friend here becoming Ethan. For proof of this, just look at the constant color combination, with Victor wearing dark red and Norman often wearing yellow. But also, these characters within this small little story refer to themselves as best friends.
Norman, no, please. You're my best friend.
Something we see Ethan and Victor do frequently within the show. Julie's story continues with her claiming that the secret fairies were gonna come back from the Lake of Tears and be able to help Norman. If the monsters are the fairies of Fromville, could this mean the secret fairies are either folk like the man in yellow, or even fairies lurking amongst the town disguised as regular residents? In my opinion, if there was one, it would be Clara. Now in episode 2 of the series, following a strange seizure Ethan has, he wakes up having had a dream of the Lake of Tears. And with Jim's advice to find the Lake of Tears, there's a chance this will all be building towards what Ethan's dream and Julie's story was all about.
I saw the Lake of Tears. It was a drawing on the wall. There were so many drawings on the wall, and we were all there in the drawings. You and me, and Mom, and Julie. But somebody screamed because the spider came down from the ceiling.
Ethan claims the Lake of Tears were a picture on the wall, and with what he was describing, it seemed a lot like Victor's room in general. So ideally, potentially Ethan could find the Lake of Tears in Victor's bedroom. Only there is a slight problem, as Victor just last season chucked a bunch of his stuff outside of the window, meaning if the Lake of Tears were there, they're potentially not there now. Was how somebody screamed and a spider fell from the ceiling. We know a big spider or a horde of spiders have a key role to play within Fromville, as within the woods we can find a giant spider tree covered in webs and even holding some of the dead residents we've seen so far. This could even allude to the fact that the dead residents aren't actually back in the real world, but actually caught in this makeshift cosmic prison within the spider tree. Maybe just like the kids, their souls are trapped by the spider. But still, that leaves me with the question of what is the significance behind people's items and how does it directly correspond to the nightmares we see within Fromville? If you have any theories on that, let me know down below. Otherwise, it really feels like this season will be delivering some big answers to a lot of the questions we have and potentially set up an even bigger season 5.
They come with you when you go.
I need you to listen to me, please. Okay, there isn't much time. Now, this is gonna sound very, very strange, and you're not gonna believe me, and I wouldn't believe me either. Okay, and I wish there was more time to explain, but if you don't come with me right now, you're all going to die.
to the window.
And it's coming.
We have seen unbelievable shit in this place. Roads that lead nowhere. Monsters that come from the dark. According to Boyd, there are evil fucking trees that trap you in dungeons.
People who were lost. They couldn't escape. She said they were holding on to hope, and when that hope was gone, they held on to each other.
No, you don't understand! There's something in the room!